One. So hello all, welcome to episode 2 of Humanist Chat, part of Humanist in Healthcare's YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube. Humanist in Healthcare is a 501c3 nonprofit. This is going to be a discussion with Jonathan Bailey and I. However, in the future, we will include other people as well. If you didn't see our first episode, it's really a great discussion about abortion. We want other people to be involved. So please share this video, comment, and actually even message us to see if you would like to give your opinion, whether in comments or, oh, if you're really interested, we could even try our best to get you on the show. So
Absolutely.
we would love to hear from you. So the title of today's episode, which is why I'm sure why you clicked on this, is We All Know a COVID Anti-Vaxxer. They may be our family. They may be our friends. You know, sometimes they might surprise you. I'm a nurse, and I had a coworker who was very surprised was an anti-vax, was a COVID anti-vaxxer.
Same here. Same here. I'm a nurse as well, and I've seen a couple that were anti-vaxxers, and it can be a little perplexing to us, to people that work in our profession, because we deal with so many different disease processes, different vaccines. So it's kind of strange when you run into someone who is in a scientific, a healthcare based field, and they have some what we would call irrational fears about this particular vaccine. So I guess we just really wanted to discuss that. Let's talk about like why is that?
Yeah, definitely. And just so everyone's aware, we're discussing for everyone, whether you directly work as a clinician in the healthcare field or whether you work in any other field. You know, we got a lot of advice in this episode beforehand from someone who doesn't work in healthcare at all. Um, so yeah, I think I wanted to start this discussion with you is like, how do we really address this? So one of the beforehand in our drinking skeptically session, we had somebody tell us that it might not even be worth it. Do you agree with that,
It
Jonathan? It's
might
not
not.
worth it.
During the discussion that we had, I was saying that, yeah, I don't know whether or not it's necessarily worth it to put a lot of resources into the small percentage of people that are left that I would say are truly anti-vaxxers. There's some people that are skeptical, but if we're talking about the people that are never going to do it, we had thrown a number out, but it was kind of a random number. But either way, we assume that those people it's a relatively small number. And that's just because of the vaccination numbers that we have right now. If people have taken one vaccine, then we know that they're, very unlikely to be anti-vaxxers, of course. So the thought was, how many of our resources do we want to actually allocate towards reaching that, percentage of people that at this point seem like they'll never take the vaccine? And I don't think that it's a large amount of resources. We don't want to allocate a lot of resources to it, but I do think that it's a good idea to do something, to at least attempt to engage these people, because we can fight, like one of our campaigns, we can fight misinformation. Now, if just because they're not going to believe us, I think it's still an ethical pursuit for us to attempt to get that information out to them. But no, I don't think we should necessarily allocate a large amount of our resources to necessarily reaching these people. But we should be putting information out to everyone who will be receptive.
You brought up a good question, which is how many of the people are actually vaccinated or who are actually vaccinated in the U.S.
Mhm.
So a day ago, and I'm looking at USA Today, but in fact, I'll actually go to CDC rather than
Yeah,
USA Today.
because USA Today might be fake news. Just
Yeah,
kidding, USA Today. I'm just kidding.
yes. USA Today, just letting you know that that was an opinion by Mr. Jonathan Bailey, not Medicine
Oh,
Healthcare.
it was a joke. I'm just kidding.
I hear you. So let's see, because I do think it's a large number that we think it is.
Yeah.
Now, who are not vaccinated. Now, are a lot of those, would I say, people who are anti-vaxxers? Probably not. I would assume most of those are actually just people who just have not gotten vaccinated.
Yeah.
And
And some might not prioritize it. It might not be something they won't do. It's just not something that they necessarily prioritize, which is rational for someone who's at low risk. I'll get the vaccine when I get around to it. People live busy lives. So I don't have any qualms with them. But for the people that unfortunately have fallen victim to the misinformation that's made them afraid of the vaccine, that's a whole different thing.
well, and I would say even on top of that, you know, it is a it is a good point to acknowledge that this vaccine hasn't been around for this long time, and we mentioned in our drinking skeptically session that a few months ago you had to be a healthcare worker, you had to be put in a special category.
Yeah.
It wasn't just you could get whatever you wanted, and now you go to any hospital, you go to any CVS, you can get the vaccine. Um, it means like you can get the vaccine now whenever you want.
In my
But
hospital, you can just walk in and get the vaccine anytime you want. It would
exactly,
love it if
and
more people came.
oh yeah, and I don't, and for that reason, I would say that most people, like, some people might not actually have that access. I mean, I live in actually a very, just for everybody knows, I live in Maryland, close to the well, close to the capital, which is Annapolis. It's not Baltimore, for people who didn't know. But I also live close to Baltimore, so I have a lot of things near me. But that can get a vaccine. But I'm assuming that there is a good bit of the population that doesn't have that access that I do. Or you live down in the South. I don't know if you have a lot of access. If your area has a lot of access.
Well, so it depends. So, on the base, of course, you have immediate access. Elsewhere, uh, I mean, honestly, in the area surrounding here, there's quite a bit of access. You can just go to, like you said, like you can just walk into CVS, Walmart, or whatever, and you can get a vaccine immediately if you like. So
Yeah.
it's
So
easy to get,
yeah.
but you probably do have a minor part of the population that just will never do. And so I think the gentleman that we were talking to earlier, one of the things that he's concerned about is that that small part of the population being an incubator for for worsening COVID symptoms or worsening COVID strains. And I know you've heard all about the Delta variant at this point. And I think there are people that are worried that having a small pocket or, 1/5, 1/3 of the country that's not vaccinated can, cause incubation and the evolution of, more virulent strain possibly. And that's something that we do have to address. But I think we want to address these things ethically without actually harming anyone or without violating anyone's rights. And that's one of the challenges. I think that's the tightrope that we have to walk. Uh, as public health advocates, like what are we going to do to protect everyone else and to help these people realize that it's in their best interest to take the medicine that we have to offer.
Well, I mean, I think that we definitely shouldn't force people down and give them like force people to get shots, by holding them down or anything. However, I do think it maybe we should encourage private business owners, um, you know, talk about certain incentives. I think education, to a degree, is helpful. As sad as it is to say, I mean, I never thought I'd be saying this, is that to a degree, education isn't effective because some people will only accept the education that agrees with them. A
Well,
lot of time, I mean, I've had people tell me climate change isn't a real thing. Um, I've had people tell me um, that that the U.S. government gave smallpox blankets to Native Americans didn't actually happen.
wow.
Um, Yeah, I mean, it's a you know, education unfortunately has become like politics. You only accept whatever truth you want to accept.
And a lot of these things are complicated. I mean, we were discussing that a little bit earlier too. I don't know. There might be, and not to sound like a jerk or to be, elitist in any way, but there's certain people that I just think don't will not understand the in-depth explanations for a lot of things. And I don't know what exactly we can do about that. If you give the simple, like, this is medicine, this will make you better. If you look at other people that have taken this, they have not gotten the disease. uh, at this point, we've become so polarized that just it doesn't matter what we say to a certain group of people. It's going to be seen as fake news, like USA Today. Just kidding, again, USA Today.
USA Today, we
They're going
both
to sue.
actually love you. We both actually love your news. You
Yeah,
guys
they're
actually,
fine. They're fine. They're going to
yeah,
sue.
yeah, yeah. You know, I love reading USA Today. So
I'm a jokester. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
yeah, but I just think that there's a certain group of people that might not even be able to engage with the information the way that we do. So you might put the information out there, and they don't use the same criteria to think critically about, the information that's presented to them that we do. So if they're told something by someone that they think is credible, they'll believe that. And it doesn't matter what other people are saying. It doesn't matter what the actual facts are. Statistics are not important. And I'm not sure exactly how you combat that. I mean, one of the things that I know that we can do is just continue to put out the good information. But what is it that's going to break them away from believing falsehoods? What's going to break them away from, the dogmatic, belief in in a lie, basically, in a lie? I don't know.
Well, well, I mean, unfortunately, that is a one thing is this is something my wife and I disagree on a lot. Is can we choose what we believe? I personally go with what Matt Dillahunty says, which is, belief isn't a choice. You're either convinced of something or you're not. For example, I can't just start believing the moon is made of blue cheese. As much as I try, I am not convinced that moon is made of blue cheese. Um, so,
So I don't have any issue with that when you're talking about. So we have a certain, and this is again not to disparage anyone. So if you have intellectual honesty, then yeah, you can't convince yourself to believe anything because you're intellectually honest. But not everyone has that. Not everyone has that. So I think that there are people that can convince themselves that certain things are true. There are people that are able to double think. They can think two contradictory things at the same time, based on which one is convenient or which one feels better for them at the particular time to believe. So we see people doing this all the time. So I don't know that just because we are that way, that everyone is. You know what I mean?
no, I agree. I think that this goes to a point that I don't know if you know who No Illusions is. From
Say
the
again?
No Illusions from the Scathing Atheist podcast.
I don't think so,
Um,
but I'll look them up now.
yeah, and just for anybody who knows, if you want a something really great to listen to, the Scathing Atheist, really amazing. And no, I do not know No Illusions personally, and nobody from the Scathing Atheist paid me to say this. Um, it's a great podcast, but he mentioned something the other day that one of the best parts about being human is being able to change your mind. And I
Absolutely.
think for most people, that's really hard. I mean, one of the things is they don't want their beliefs don't change because it is so difficult to change their minds.
Right.
I mean, and for me, I was a very anti-trans, anti-gay person, not really super long ago. And
Mhm.
now, if you look at me, I'm extremely pro LGBT rights. Um, I hope that I hope to be somebody who advocates for my transgender brothers and sisters. I recently created wrote an op-ed for my school about my transgender brothers and sisters. but I was open to changing my mind. However, I know most people aren't. And
I wonder, do you think that that has something to do with the fact that you care about what's true? Because I think that there's a certain uh, there's a certain percentage of people that are not all that concerned about whether or not the things that they believe are actually true. So you can change your mind when you're actually searching for things that are actual fact. But if you're not looking for, or at least the closest, the closest representation of reality that you can get to what's actually occurring, because we probably don't have access to ultimate reality, because everything is based on the senses that we have and our ability to deduct what's true and what's not. But I really believe that there are certain people, and probably a lot of people, that aren't all that concerned with whether or not the things that they believe or the things that they espouse are actually true. I know that seems weird, but for people that do care about what's true, it's easy for us to change our mind. As a matter of fact, sometimes it feels good. You're like, oh wow, I believe this false thing all this time, and now, you know, and that happens all the time to me. It was something that I thought was true, or I had a mistaken understanding of it, and then you have that eureka moment, and you instantly, oh, now I know that that was false. I'll just switch over to this. But you can see, just observing people, that there are a lot of people that do not do that, regardless of what information they're presented with. They'll fight that cognitive dissonance off, so easily, and like, nope, I'm going to stick with the thing that I know. And I'm not sure exactly what drives that, but apparently it's a thing that happens with a lot of people in their minds. Maybe I'm not able to process it because that's not how my mind works. But so feeding them good information is not going to be effective for these people. I think some of these ideas actually are part of their identity. So if this is part of their identity, they're not giving that up just because of something silly like the truth.
and I 100% agree with you, because it does take it. That's part of it is one, looking at people who change their mind or looked at traitors. And two, people who change their mind constantly, as much as we should think it's a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's looked at badly. It's like, oh, you're not sticking to your ideals or things like that. And my wife actually had to work with me on that when I had struggled with those kinds of thoughts. It's like, changing your mind is actually signs of growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I changed my mind on issues a lot.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's
Why
yeah,
wouldn't you? We have a limited ability to absorb information and to process it. So as you get more information, or your ability to process it improves, you should be changing, your idea of whatever it is that you're observing. I don't see why you wouldn't, unless you think you were right in the first place. Unless you were right in the first place, I should say.
well, I
Because
mean,
I'm not changing. Because 2 + 2 is not going to change for me. I'm pretty solid. I've gotten good evidence that the symbolism that we use to represent 2 + 2 equaling 4 is sound, and we know that that's what other people understand it for being. So I know that that's a thing, as long as we're using, what is it? What do they call it? Base 10.
yeah.
Using base 10 numbers, right? But I'm showing my dork now, I guess. But there are a lot of things about reality that I don't know. I have a strong belief that I have a good understanding of it, but I might not. And if I'm presented with more information, I wouldn't have any issue at all changing my mind on it. And of course, that's a sign of growth, and it's also a sign of uh, intellectual honesty. And those of us that seek it are intellectually curious. And I really think that that's something that's not as common as it should be in a free and supposedly highly educated society. And I'm not sure how, especially for people like us, because we're the ones that are going to be engaged in doing studies, because you have to be analytical in order to do the study in the first place. It's not going to be much of a study if you're not going to process the information and go where the information takes you. So since we're the type of people that are going to be doing these studies, I think we're poorly equipped to deal with the type of people that will reject whatever we say. You know, we just don't have it in us because it's hard to understand those people for us. I know that they exist because I see them doing things, but I have a hard time processing what their thought process is. And I think that's one of the roots of the issue that we have with being able to convince these people.
Right.
And I hate it. So, and I feel almost like that sounds elitist in a way. And I do not want it to sound that way, but that's the frustration that a lot of us face when trying to push uh good information, or at least honest information, because we might be wrong. That's fine, I can accept that, but we're following the information, we're following where the information takes us. So we're not lying, we're trying to give you the best information that's available. And I think there's a large amount of people that don't understand that either. I think that's why they're mad at Dr. Fauci a lot of the time, because he's a scientist. He works with the information that he has. And as more information comes in, he changes his mind. So it seems like he's inconsistent to them. Yeah, what do you think about that?
But I mean, but that's part of science, though. I mean, even Dr. Patrick said in his multiple statements to Congress that that's how science works. It's like you have to change your mind.
Right.
In the beginning, Dr. Fauci came out and said that masks should not be worn. Sorry about that. So Dr. Fauci came out and stated that masks should not be worn. Mostly because healthcare workers, it was a necessity for healthcare workers to need the masks that they had. I mean, there was a shortage in the initial stages in this pandemic. However,
it's important
later
for public health to be honest with people, though. And if you're going to say don't buy up all the masks because healthcare workers need them, then that's what you should say. Don't tell people that it's not, that you shouldn't be wearing masks, or make sure that you're explaining it properly. So I actually have some criticism for the way that Dr. Fauci addressed that early on. And that's okay. We can do that. He's a public official.
And he's not perfect either.
Right.
Well, and actually, I think you and I are remembering it a little bit differently. And not believe me, once again, I can 100% be wrong. I did think that he did mention that healthcare workers need the mask, but I could be 100% wrong. I mean, because I say things in the wrong way.
No, you're not wrong. So he did. Very early on, he was just like recommending that people don't use masks, and didn't give a whole lot of it, or at least the first time that I saw him talk about that, which was pretty early on in the pandemic, because I was really, being a nurse in a hospital, you get really into this type of thing pretty quickly. So early on, he did say that people shouldn't wear masks. I'm like, okay, well, all right, great. Obviously, we were going to wear masks because we wear masks anyway in the hospital in a lot of cases. And afterwards, he did come out and say that the reasoning for him saying that people shouldn't be used, that he's not recommending masks, is because it's for healthcare workers. He wants to keep it from becoming a shortage for healthcare workers. And that was still early on. I mean, that must have been like February-ish. So that was still pretty early on in the pandemic. So I'm not trying to be unfair to Dr. Fauci, but I can see why people have grasped onto the idea that he didn't give information out the best, in the best way possible. But it's difficult, and he's dealing with the pandemic that's happening very quickly in real time. So you have to make decisions. But we want to make sure that as people that are giving out public health information, that we give the best information possible.
Definitely, and it is worth the point to know that Dr. Fauci is also an epidemiologist, that not necessarily, he's first and foremost an epidemiologist, not necessarily like a public speaker.
Right, and right. He's not a public health person, basically. Although he is, just because of the position that he holds and the way that that he's been pushed out into the media. He's, unfortunately for him, I guess, become a public health official. Unfortunately, because you're right. He's a scientist. He's a person that studies. He's not necessarily a public speaker. but he does fairly well at it. And I think that's one of the reasons that the administration used him the way that he did.
Definitely. Oh, real quick, and let me just put a little aside here for all the viewers. If you haven't heard, American Humanist Association's AHA con will be happening very soon, where the Humanist of the Year is actually Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm not getting paid. We as humanists in healthcare are not getting any proceeds or anything from the American Humanist Association. We actually aren't even a chapter of the American Humanist Association or an affiliate. We are considering that in the future, but we definitely recommend that if you want to attend, please attend. I got my tickets. I am very excited about it. And Dr. Fauci will get Humanist of the Year award. So I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. So I may actually post the link in the. I'll post the link in the comments. But
I think we have it. We have it on the Facebook as well, don't we?
Yeah, I think we do. So please look at our Facebook for this, because this should be a very fun event and a really great time. I'm very curious what Dr. Fauci has to say, and yeah, I know a lot of people are like really surprised that Dr. Fauci is humanist. In fact, when I found out that he was getting, I didn't know until he was getting this award when I got the email. Yep. I didn't know that he was a humanist at all. So then I decided to look up, has he gotten slack for being a humanist? And lo and behold, he did. I mean, there was actually a lot of people out there that say that Dr. Fauci shouldn't be in his position because he is a humanist and not part of an organized religion. It's like, that's actually an interesting point. That it's like, it's not surprising, but it's another reason for people to criticize him.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
I mean, is it really that crazy? I mean, to this day, I really, things don't really surprise me anymore.
Humanistic values as part of medical principles is pretty well established, so it's just strange. Well, no, not really. I guess for the general public to say something like that, no, I guess it's not strange at all.
I mean, even for the public itself, one of the reasons we started this organization, is really, one of the reasons you reached out to me when we were starting this organization is we didn't really have a place for humanist nurses. A lot of times people assume that nurses are people of faith, that nurses are very religious, and then we decided to reach out to all healthcare workers. I found that there was many people who reached out to us, including doctors, other people in the healthcare field, and yeah, I mean, people don't realize that we're based in humanist values, because I think people think that it's very religiously based.
Yeah, I guess.
Especially nursing, because nursing is we were started by Florence Nightingale, who was a very religious person. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean,
the pushback is just weird to me.
Yeah, it definitely is. But, I mean, and back to the point of how we deal with anti-vaxxers is, a lot of times people do have their beliefs, Yeah. And most of them will not change. Is it worth it to go out to, and I'm not even going to say reach that 1 in 100, to reach that 1 in 1,000, and possibly 1 in tens of thousands? Is it worth it for us to spend that effort to try to reach that 1 in tens of thousands?
Depends on what we do to try. Depends on what the try is. So to put out the best information possible, we should always do that and hope that it catches, however many people in the net. But as far as allocating a large amount of resources, I don't think we should. I don't think we should. I mean, for one, where are we getting those resources from? And there are already public health campaigns that are out there to push use of the vaccine. But a lot of the people that don't believe in the vaccine, they actually think those public health campaigns are harmful to them, that they're soliciting them to take vaccines that are going to harm them some way. I mean, we talked very early on a video about some of the misinformation about the vaccine, and some of it is really ridiculous. I mean, RFID chips and crazy stuff like that. So sitting down with a person who believes that type of thing, what I mean, what does that discussion even look like? No, there aren't Bill Gates created microchips and a vaccine that we want to give you for a pandemic that you don't think exists. You know what I mean? I don't even know how that. How do we have that conversation?
Well, one thing I think we're speaking about is people on the larger level, like what do we do as humans on the grand scheme. But do you think that in that same place, what about our individual family members, or our individual neighbors or friends? Is it worth it to? What can we do to try to reach out to them? Because, like you're saying, the Bill Gates, we know people who believe in the Bill Gates
Totally,
conspiracy or other things.
totally believe.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
should
I mean,
we be discussing this with our friends, family members who are?
it depends on the dynamic. I think it depends on the relationship and how receptive you think the person is going to be. To me. That's I don't even really want to give any advice on that because I think that's a personal choice that the individual will know whether or not they can push this information on one of their family members or one of their friends. I have family, not really family members. My family members are okay with getting vaccines, but I have friends that will call me up regardless. Regarding any type of medical ailment that they have, even things that are way outside of my area of expertise. They'll call me up and be like, "Hey, I have this pain. Some ortho thing. I don't know anything about ortho like that." But they'll call me up and ask me what should I do for that because they know that I'm a healthcare professional. So they trust me on that. But if I say something about that vaccine, they're gonna be like, you don't know. They'll think that I'm the one that's brainwashed somehow. So, so yeah, anything else, I'm great. Vaccines, nope, you don't know what you're talking about. So it's, and I think that the individual will be able to kind of gauge whether or not a person will be receptive.
But it's kind of funny because that organization, America's Frontline Doctors, um, started by Simone Gold, and I don't know if you remember, they were on the steps of Congress, and they had Demon Sperm Lady.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that was crazy.
Yeah, that
That was amazing.
it really is. People will
It's
latch
very
onto
entertaining.
that
Very
information.
entertaining. What's
Well,
that?
well, people will latch onto that information. Like people will latch on to doctors who are. They'll be like, "Oh, look at that doctor." Like those doctors in California that said, "Oh, COVID's no worse than the flu." We did these studies. There are two people who own an urgent care clinic
Right.
and did studies of people coming in their urgent care clinic. These
Yeah.
weren't randomized controlled trials or anything, and
Well,
people just want to latch onto that.
and who
And
knows what people, and how many people in the general public know anything about biostatistics at all? Like how many people understand sample size, uh standard deviations? There aren't too many that are scientifically literate enough to be able to see two doctors. They have lab coats on, man. They both have lab coats on, and they're telling me that this is something that's true, which is funny because if you put one on Dr. Fauci, a lot of these same people won't believe him. Probably the most prominent epidemiologist in the country. So I don't know. People are
well,
set in ways.
well, there's I remember at one point somebody told me that if a demon sperm lady, my printer just turned on. If somebody told me at one point somebody told me demon sperm lady would actually be a one of the best examples of health. Like she would be a leader in health because of her promotion of hydroxychloroquine. And I want everybody to know I am a nurse and I am not an epidemiologist. I do not have a master's of public health or a doctor of public health. Studies have shown hydroxychloroquine is not effective at treating COVID-19.
Right.
I feel that comfortable with saying that.
Yeah. Right.
However, people did jump on what she said. I mean, and it's crazy because it's like she's saying that she believes in the demon sperm sex,
Sure.
yet
Like, what the hell is that even supposed to mean? Completely unscientific. What is a demon? Like, these are, and again, not to say that such a thing that, well, I don't believe such a thing exists, but not to say that such a thing exists. There's it's not a scientifically useful term. So that's not something that a doctor should be saying as part of a diagnosis for anything. It's but a lot of people don't know that. They have that belief. That's part of their reality or their model of reality. And they'll roll with someone saying something like that, even though the statement is almost meaningless. It's and
this sounds like a good subject for a Halloween episode. I should probably have my wife involved because recently I saw that movie, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And I kind of would be curious, like her doing some research and having her on about people stating demonic possession
yeah,
versus psychological issues.
yeah,
I would be very curious. I think that would be a fun Halloween episode.
yeah. That would
So
be all right. So let's we'll put it on the calendar.
yeah, we definitely should.
Yeah.
So
I'll just sit in the background and laugh.
true. That I probably will too.
Right.
Well, I mean, and I guess so you mentioned that it depends on the relationship with our family members.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's unfortunate though that it's gonna almost sometimes take a family member to pass before they realize that COVID's not a hoax, that taking the vaccine
I
is.
know someone that happened to.
Or
Yeah.
and well, I mean, well, and what I was about to say is sometimes not even that happens. Did this person actually change their point of view because of
Yeah.
that? That's great. I mean, that really is.
Well, the person is a healthcare professional, so I was pretty shocked that they even had the opinions that they had in the first place. But they had a couple of family members get sick and one pass away, and complete 180 on it. Like, oh, I was wrong, you know. So it's yeah, but it's unfortunate that it has to come to that. Although it's not like I don't think that this person's incorrect ideas about the disease were a contributing factor in any way to their family member passing away. Is it probably would have happened anyway.
Right.
But yeah, they changed their minds about it completely. But you're right. There's people that still won't. They'll rationalize it. There are people right now. I mean, it's hard not to notice 600,000 extra deaths, within a 1 year period. So there were people that were denying this, but now they're having a hard time denying it. So now they're rationalizing it or saying that it was something else that caused it. Which is, in a lot of cases, that's not borne out by the statistics. We know that those were 600,000 excess deaths, not that it was just, they're not just misdiagnosing 600,000 people that would have died anyway. So, but yeah, you see a lot of, I mean, in big media, there are people that are rationalizing this type of thing, on, our favorite cable news channel, they'll, they spit out COVID misinformation all the time to downplay it, which I don't know who that benefits. There's a corporation that benefits. It doesn't make sense to lose 600,000 people.
I recently heard that our favorite media news channel is recently starting their own weather channel too. That I'm assuming is going to lead to denial of climate change and other things.
Well, it's easy to ignore climate change in a weather report because they're not the same thing. Now, I mean, the climate change itself is a hyper object, but there are local manifestations of that hyper object that, the weather or extreme weather. So, I mean, it's kind of easy to be like, oh, well, there are always hurricanes. So there's this hurricane. I mean, it's a little bit harder to talk about Seattle having 3 100-degree days in a row when previously they had 3 100-degree days, like in the history of the city or something crazy like that. So, and that just happened. What was that, last week or the week before last? So I don't know, but either way, they'll report the weather and they won't interpret it as being a manifestation of, the much bigger and harder to understand, you know, amorphous entity that is climate change.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, but part of that, we know why that occurs. There are interests that don't want to take responsibility for, for the way that we're changing our planet. And I can understand that. I don't see what other incentive they would have. They don't want to not make money. So I think it's short-sighted, because I think these big companies could still make a bunch of money if they switch over to sustainable, ways of extracting energy. They're the ones that have the resources to do it. So I don't know why they don't make that transition. But in order to make that transition, I guess we still have to keep burning fossil fuels. So they have to propagandize to the people, to the public.
Yeah.
Well, we're bouncing around subjects a lot today, man.
Yeah, we are, but I think it brings forth a good discussion. But back to the main subject, and we'll close on this. I think the big thing is that what we've gotten at is we do need to attempt to reach out to our friends, family. However, we should also assess that how much effort we put into it.
Yeah, and set realistic expectations. So I think it's the ethical thing to do to push message. I mean, anytime you have information that you think is better, that can help people that are close to you, you should give them that information. Now, you probably want to have a realistic expectation as to whether or not they'll take it.
Sure.
Yeah. People don't believe me all the time, and I do my best not to lie to anyone. Now, I might be wrong. I mean, I am wrong sometimes, but if I'm giving you that information, I think I'm correct. So,
and I'm wrong a lot of times, but yeah, we all believe the information we give is correct. Right. However, it's on all of us to research. It's on all of us to encourage critical thinking. It is our duty to help others reach the conclusions themselves.
And I think,
in future sessions we should talk about engaging, how we engage, how we get people to think, rather than saying, this is true, saying, how do we teach them to find their own truth?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because we did address that a little bit today. Just some of the issues that we believe that people have with being able to differentiate between things that are more likely to be true or more likely to be false. So I think, that probably would be a good discussion in the future for us to talk about specifics, specific things that help people to figure out what's more likely true or what's more than likely not true.
Definitely. So I think we'll end there, but so I do want to mention, if that's all right with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was
great. So we should have another video out in a week. So like I said at the very beginning, if you we want everybody to be interactive. So please comment, please talk, and please feel free to message us if you think that you have an opinion that you wanted to perhaps put on the show.
Yeah. And
we are part of the big faith.
And you can come on and call us dumb. Like, we might have you, if you want to come on, you can come on and give us better ideas, because we might change our minds.
Definitely. Like, you could completely disagree with us, and hell, we'd love to have you if you don't think even if you disagree with us and say, the vaccine isn't good for the public, we'd love to hear your opinion, and we promise we will address it in a respectful way. We're not people who are gonna have you on a show to humiliate. It's not who we are as just regular people, but it's not who we represent as humanists in healthcare. We believe ourselves to be in a different in a different state from that. And I have had conversations with people who were part of organizations which disagree from me completely, but I think that respectful discussion is very important. So I would actually say as well, please join us on our Facebook discussion, and we've had people message on Facebook that they want to join us on the show, and we're going to try to get them on. fairly soon. People from both in the U.S. and out of the country. Uh, Also, we would love for everybody to join our future drinking skeptically sessions. We had one beforehand. You can these sessions we talk about pretty much anything and everything:
Mhm.
politics, religion, sports, whatever you want to talk about.
Yep.
And just an opportunity to get to know each other. Everybody says they have a fun time. Uh, Alcohol is optional. You do not have to be drinking alcohol. We request that you have some sort of drink in your hand, whether it be water, soda, tea, beer. And last but not least, you'll see the links on our YouTube channel to both donate, and you'll also see to join our Facebook and meetup groups. So please, we would love for you to join. And please donate. We need donations to end up doing what we're doing. We hope to make this a humanitarian organization. So to do the work that we want to do, we would love to have your support. So that means a lot to us. And once again, and lastly, we did not get paid from American Humanist Association or the Scathing Atheist. I personally recommend you go to both of their websites and check them out. Very great. Scathing Atheist, a great podcast, in my opinion. And American Humanist Association, I think Jonathan and I can both agree is a great organization.
Yeah, it's great.
Did you want to say anything, Jonathan, before we close?
Not really. Yeah, I love the AHA. I was an AHA member before, before I even met you. So it's a great organization to join, especially for humanists. For humanists in healthcare, we're a great organization to join. So especially getting in on the ground floor, we're going to do big things in the future. Hopefully, become a humanitarian organization of some significant impact. So if you want to join that, if you want to join us in that work, then contact us. That's all I got.
Sounds good. So we will, with that being said, we will see you all next time.
Later, guys.